discovered the groundbreaking study that proves how intermittent fasting can completely reverse type 2 diabetes. Not only that, it challenges the idea that remission is only possible with the shorter diabetes duration. Before we get to the study, which was published in the Journal of the Endocrinology and Metabolism, we need a little context so we can understand the common thread between type 2 diabetes, metabolic health, and intermittent fasting. Tell us in the comments section if you have heard this story before. Let's use a fictitious person. We will call him Ben, a 45-year-old guy. He is overweight with a 42-inch waist. After gaining 15 pounds in a year, his doctor advises him to eat less and exercise. Ignoring the advice, Ben gains another 12 pounds in 1 year when he sees the doctor. The doctor orders blood work. The results show that he has elevated insulin and glucose levels and becomes officially diabetic with a hemoglobin A1C level of 6.5%. Then, a rep named Deborah introduces the doctor to a new diabetes drug, semaglutide, known for weight loss. In a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, it helped people drop 15% of their body weight, but they excluded those with type 2 diabetes. Despite this, the drug showed improvements in waist size, blood pressure, and A1C levels. It seemed safe, causing only minor side effects. But the study was short and didn't include people with type 2 diabetes. Interesting. Why is it a big deal that these study participants were overweight or obese but didn't have type 2 diabetes? Well, many people think you get sick because you gain weight. But, surprise, 80% of the time, it's the other way around. First, you get sick from a metabolic standpoint, and then you put on the extra pounds. Believe it or not, 20 out of 100 obese folks are actually metabolically healthy. We call this MHO or metabolically healthy obesity. These people, despite being overweight, are generally healthy. They have regular lifespans and normal length telomeres. They carry extra fat under their skin, but not in places where it shouldn't be, like in their liver cells. Plus, their metabolic function is normal, and their insulin levels are low. So, it's not just about the weight on the outside, but what's happening inside that really matters. Being metabolically unhealthy is called metabolic syndrome. It happens when your body stores energy in the wrong places, like muscles and the liver, instead of where it should: fat cells, muscles, and the liver. Fat cells store extra energy as fat, and muscles, liver store it as glycogen, a form of glucose. The tricky part? If fat is stored outside of fat cells, in muscles, liver, or pancreas, it's called ectopic fat, and it messes things up. For 80% of overweight or obese folks who are metabolically unhealthy, they got sick first. High insulin levels led to insulin resistance, making them gain weight. Even if most cells resisted insulin, fat cells still stored more energy, making them bigger. Now, what if you're not overweight? Being thin doesn't mean you're automatically healthy. Some thin people have TOFI,
What do you mean? What do you mean?
thin outside, fat inside.
Okay.
Surprisingly, 40% of normal weight people have metabolic issues like insulin resistance and high insulin levels. Even though not obese, their fat cells might resist insulin, and we're still figuring out why. Let's talk about where extra energy goes. It ends up as ectopic fat in organs like the liver, muscles, and sometimes the pancreas. People who received semaglutide in a study were likely metabolically healthy despite being overweight or obese. But remember, you can't always tell if someone is healthy by just looking at them. Now, back to Ben. Whether he gets semaglutide or another drug for type 2 diabetes, it doesn't fix the real issue: eating too much unhealthy food. Processed foods with added sugar and refined carbs lead to high insulin levels and resistance. Exercise helps by boosting AMP kinase, improving insulin sensitivity. Intermittent fasting does the same. Both activities help cells repair and refresh mitochondria, vital for overall health. So, whether you're moving or fasting, it's about keeping those mitochondria healthy. Coming up, we'll unravel the results of a recent study involving 72 individuals battling type 2 diabetes. Stay tuned for the revealing details. Intermittent fasting helps folks with type 2 diabetes. Normally, when insulin connects to its receptor on a cell, it tells the cell to move glucose inside. That glucose is used to make energy, ATP, in the mitochondria. But in type 2 diabetes, insulin can't do its job well because blood glucose levels are too high. So, the pancreas makes more insulin. People with type 2 diabetes end up with lots of insulin in their blood. Now, here's the good part. Recent studies show that intermittent fasting is great at making cells respond better to insulin. This means it makes cells more sensitive to insulin, reducing the risk of diabetes and even reversing type 2 diabetes in some cases. In one study in Australia, 63 people with type 2 diabetes did intermittent fasting for 3 months, and they saw big drops in hemoglobin A1C levels, a sign of better blood sugar control. Even if you can't or don't want to exercise, intermittent fasting can still help keep glucose and insulin levels in check. Let's talk about a recent study involving 72 people aged 38 to 72, all dealing with type 2 diabetes for 1 to 11 years. They were randomly split into two groups, half in the control group and the rest in the treatment group, which practiced intermittent fasting with calorie restriction, called the Chinese medical nutrition therapy. Their main goal was to check if this could reverse diabetes, defined as having a hemoglobin A1C level less than 6.5% for at least 3 months after stopping all diabetes medications. They also looked at other things like hemoglobin A1C levels, fasting glucose levels, blood pressure, weight loss, and quality of life. After the study, they kept an eye on the participants for 12 months to see if the diabetes remission stuck around. Now, let's find out what the results reveal. In the study, almost half of the people doing intermittent fasting achieved diabetes remission, while only one person in the control group did. The folks in the fasting group lost more weight, and after a year, almost half of them were still in remission with lower medication cost. Here's the kicker. Nearly 90% of participants, even those on medications and insulin, reduced their medication needs through intermittent fasting. More than half of them stopped diabetes medications, stayed in remission for over a year, challenging the idea that remission is only possible with a shorter diabetes duration. Two-thirds of those in remission had diabetes for more than 6 years. It all comes down to making choices that lower insulin levels and improve sensitivity. In conclusion, we've explored groundbreaking insights from a recent study showing the remarkable impact of intermittent fasting on type 2 diabetes. With nearly half of the participants achieving diabetes remission and substantial weight loss, this approach challenges conventional views and presents a promising avenue for those seeking effective diabetes management. The study not only highlights the benefits of intermittent fasting, but also emphasizes the importance of choices that reduce insulin levels and improve sensitivity. If you found this information valuable, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more insightful content, and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Thanks for joining us, and as always, we wish you the best in your diabetes recovery.